Hi everybody, Narcoids here with a new video. Not the video that I was originally going to make. The reason for it is I'll explain a little later once we get into the actual demonstration. This was originally going to be a product review / comparison between two products, GHS products. As you know, I'm a flatwound string aficionado. Well, aficionado. I like flatwound strings on a bass. And, well, I got a hold of these GHS black nylon tapewounds. And the reason for that is, one, they are officially discontinued by GHS. I was told by a gentleman who works for GHS. And I wanted to get them before they got expensive and they got rare. So I bought them. And I got them from Bass Strings online. There's a few other places like juststrings.com. Strings by Mail, I believe, also sells them. Elderly sells them. You could probably find them on amazon.com and amazon.ca, although they'll be more expensive than either of the other places that I mentioned. And I also wanted to get them because they're a little different from most other nylon strings. I've tried two other brands before. The first ones I tried were the Rotosound True 88s, TRU 88s, and I had them on my violin bass a few years ago. I did like the sound, however, I ended up snapping one of the strings off because I was readjusting it all the time. Then I also tried the Fender nylon wounds, which I put on a Project P bass that I made for my brother and that I had reviewed in an earlier video on my Nightmare Orange Donald bass. What makes these GHS strings different from all the others, and this also includes Diodaros and Labellas, and I believe Black Diamond also makes nylon wound strings. There might be a couple of other companies, I can't quite remember right now. But what makes these different from those ones is that most nylon strings actually have a regular garden variety round wound string underneath, slightly smaller gauge, and then they cover it with nylon to make it a little thicker and to make it more mellow. And of course, there's no fret noise or finger noise when you play them, just like a flat wound would be. And some of them are polished very smoothly. Others are a little rough. The Fenders have a certain texture to them. I do remember the Rotosounds being very smooth, and these are very smooth. Now, I already installed these on one of my basses. I was originally thinking of putting it on my Project Peeps, my Sweet Georgia Brown, but I decided maybe I should put it on an instrument that has a more stable neck that's less finicky, so I actually have it on my jazz bass. And I wanted to make originally a comparison between that and the GHS flatwounds, the 2-year-old flatwounds that I have on there already. But I changed my mind. The reason for that is because I wanted to go into detail about these particular strings. And to do that, I'm going to go get my bass. We're going to change cameras, and you'll have a listen. And I'll give you my first impressions on these strings. All right, so here's the jazz bass, loaded up with the nylons, the GHS nylons. They have some really nice silks. They have bright red silks. I think they look pretty. Actually, the silks are very dense, so they're very solid and very smooth, just like the rest of the strings. A few of the things before I actually demonstrate the tone on this. I've discovered that because these things are so flexible, I mean, look at that, you know, I've actually had to crank the truss rod quite a bit so that these things aren't quite as clangy and buzzy. Because when you have really flexible strings, you sort of have to raise your action a little bit, you know, because these are not stiff at all. Okay, well, anyway, might as well demonstrate. This is everything open and undampened, of course. I'm going to put in text, in titles, exactly what settings I'm using for the amp. One thing I've noticed about them, well, actually, it's hard to tell when I can't, directly compare side by side, how the different string sets sound on this instrument. So that's why I've already recorded a video of the segment of this bass still with the GHS flats, and I'm going to do the same in a later video comparing it directly. But I want to give my impressions on these strings. First off, of all of the nylon wound strings that I've tried so far, and granted it's only 3 of them, I like these, and especially on this jazz bass. Not enough to displace the GHS Precisions in terms of my favorite sound on this bass, but I am kind of glad that I bought these. And I mean, I've only had them on this bass for a couple of days, and I've only, fooled around with it a little bit, but however, I think these strings need to break in a little bit more. It's just my opinion, especially the E string. It sounds kind of hollow. And through the headphones, as I'm playing it at the same time, it seems to have some, it's like it's going through a phaser. The other strings are fine though. The interesting thing about nylons is that you can make them sound very, very mellow, especially if you turn down the tone a little bit. I'll put this down to about here. They have lots of top end when you play them really loud. They I don't know how the pop and slap, but as you can hear, they have very dynamic strings. I can almost get a Herbie Flowers type of jazz bass with nylon string sound. You can hear a great example of that if you listen to the Serge Gainsbourg La Balade de Mélodie Nelson. You can easily find that on YouTube. Yes, it's a French song, but the bass is the main instrument on all of that album. And that one, La Balade de Mélodie Nelson, which was the it was the single on that album. Just the sound on it, it's just great. You can get that sound. I don't know if he actually uses foam, but I don't know how to play it, but now, when you go to put some foam on this, let's see if I can do this real fast. I have to be careful because this camera here can only do 10-minute clips at a time. But when you foam mute it a little bit, whoops, it sort of takes away the hollowness, and just like foam would with almost any ground wound or flat wound string, it really cuts out a lot of the overtones and undertones. Now it sounds a lot more like a flat wound, but it still has that top end clickiness. Unlike the Fender nylon wounds that I tried before, about last year, I guess. I find these the top end doesn't sound as grainy. And especially when you just have the neck pickup on. And when you can do tic-tac bass on nylon wound strings, they sound really good too. Has a certain clickiness that you can get on flats, but the clickiness on these nylons, on the GHS nylons, they seem more pronounced. I like the sound. It's a different sound. I haven't thrown my flats away, that's for sure, because someday I'm going to use them again. I don't know how long these last, but I am impressed with the sound of these. It's a different sound for sure. I'm sure that with time, these strings are going to mellow. Would I recommend these strings? Yeah, actually, I would recommend these strings. Certainly pick them up before, they're all gone. Maybe GHS, if they see that they sell off the remaining stock, they might decide to make these again. Yeah, I would strongly suggest, even if you don't plan on putting them right away, it might be a good idea to keep them around because it's a different sound in your palette. They're different enough from flat wounds, and I think once I do the side-by-side comparison test where I use a backing track, you'll be able to hear quite a notable difference between the two. It's hard to when you just have a standalone video like this. Anyway, let me know what you think. Questions, comments, and suggestions below. Thanks for watching. Cheers for now.